It is nearly an undeniable fact that in our society there are debates over topics that will simply never be settled. I believe that one of those debates is the usage of mandated uniforms in public schools. Although this may seem like a trivial thing to discuss, the underlying issues reflect much broader and more serious topics regarding our rights and freedoms as U.S. citizens, and when and where we give some of those up. These policies inherently affect the bigger picture of the way our modern society functions and how we view the rights of children. A professor named Bryn Thomas from the UK, whose school uses uniform policies, said, "Our uniform is part of our identity, uniting our students, and we hope that they can take pride in wearing it." This quote shows the idealistic aspect of school uniforms, but not everyone feels this way. I see uniforms as a step in the right direction for public schools across the nation. There is clearly an inequality throughout school districts and states regarding resources, quality of teachers, and backgrounds that the students themselves come from. Having uniforms allows a more level playing field for the students nationwide. I'm particularly passionate about this topic because I've personally seen how a free dress attire policy can affect the social and learning climate at a place of education and study. I attended a private school for elementary school, then went to a public high school in an area that was more affluent than the neighborhood I grew up in. After reflecting on how this impacted me and other students, I thought this would be a good topic to cover because we are fairly disconnected from it being in our higher education. Following my research, it is clear to me that requiring a school uniform in all districts would be a significant improvement to having a more equal and learning focused education system. I will start off by discussing why a free dress attire code can negatively affect a student, then explain how having a set uniform established in schools would be beneficial. Lastly, I will cover the proposed arguments against uniforms and explain why I think the pros outweigh the cons. Whether or not you see school uniforms as a debatable or big issue, it contributes to a lot of underlying factors and consequences that can follow students and children down the road. Having a more relaxed uniform policy that allows students to wear what they please opens the doors to possibilities of additional issues on campus. When students are allowed to wear what they want, this adds an additional amount of stress on them to keep up with trends in so called good brands. This is just an extra thing for them to worry about, and the social pressure can definitely take a toll on their mental health at a young age, specifically for lower income students who may not be able to afford top notch clothing. According to the International Journal of Education Management, with a more lenient dress code and policy, this can lead to social disruptions on campus, regardless of race and socioeconomic status. For example, having the freedom to wear what a student wants can lead to cliques being formed or allow students to support gangs or other negative organizations that can be harmful to the student body. Although the idea of a lenient dress code may seem favorable, the overall evidence shows that this isn't always the case when put in practice. These are just a few of the many reasons I think having a strict uniform and dress code policy in schools is beneficial to not only students, but also the faculty and education districts. GreatSchools.com lists some of the specific benefits of uniforms, including as saving family money, assisting in identifying intruders who might be on campus, creating a sense of belonging, and more. The initial investment in uniforms may seem daunting, but in the long term, it makes more sense to invest in a few articles of clothing that the student is required to rewear for several years. This is a much better option than having a student ask for new clothing every year when trends come and go. A study conducted by the University of Western Florida proved that this is accurate because the investment in a few uniform items is more affordable than purchasing an entire wardrobe for the upcoming year. This can also make getting ready in the mornings simpler and quicker. There have also been studies that show that students who wear uniforms can better focus in class because of the sameness of what clothing their peers are wearing. Findings in a study conducted by the Journal of Education Management stated that implementing school uniforms might enhance discipline and allow for better learning. Additionally, attendance is better at schools across the board who have uniforms. With every angle it is observed, it seems that this is indisputably the most fair and simple way to run a school. Not everyone agrees this is the best option, though. There are several big oppositions people have when disagreeing about uniforms being the best option, but I do not think the cons outweigh the pros. Some opposers to uniforms think that limiting what students can and cannot wear is taking away their freedom of expression, An article by the New Yorker went as far to call this one of the greatest surrenderings of liberty in modern history. Although this is an interesting point, I don't see this as an infringement on any rights. Another opposing point is that it is difficult to enforce in public schools. I think this argument is invalid based on the premise that having uniforms actually is shown to help students learn and accept discipline. I think that the facts point to uniforms being the best choice from all angles and that the benefits of them definitely outweigh the downfalls. The sheer fact that students who wear uniforms usually receive a better education should be enough to make people realize that this is the most well rounded option. In this day and age, it is so necessary to put emphasis on not only equality, but fairness in schools, and requiring uniforms across the board helps even this out and better us as a whole. All in all, I think it has been made clear that the free dress policies aren't the best option, that uniforms make it so there is a level playing field, and lastly, that the benefits definitely outweigh all the potential cons. In order to create an education system that is accessible and equal, we need to start by giving the students resources that can help them thrive. Although it may seem that this would promote uniformity, it would actually allow students to focus on something else besides their physical appearance so they can grow and become unique in alternative ways.